It's 7:03. I'll make sure we're recording. It says we're recording. I'd like to call this meeting of the Lunenburg Conservation Commission to order. Laura, let's figure out who that noise is coming from and mute them.
It's not me, for once.
All right. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel at a future time. The town of Lunenburg, in response to COVID-19, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law 30A and section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. This meeting will be broadcast live through local access cable on Facebook Live on the public access Facebook page, and will be able to be found on the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. Not being broadcast tonight, but it will be available later, and it will be on YouTube. To participate remotely on Zoom, members of the public may use cell phones, tablets, or computers with audio and video capabilities. The Zoom meeting ID is 864-5585-1398. No participant ID is needed. Just press pound when asked. All participants who are not members of the commission or staff will be muted by the chair. I am doing that tonight, seeing how many people we got present. Computer and app users may use the raise hand feature to request to speak. To access the raised hand feature, open the participant list by clicking on participants. To raise your hand, click on the button at the bottom of the participant list. The chair will call on you and unmute you. Telephone audio users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Members of the public must give their name and address before they begin speaking. Please direct all comments to the chair. If you have accessing Zoom or have general questions, you can send an email to lcc@lunenburgonline.com during the meeting. Emails containing questions or comments that are to be read aloud at the meeting must be signed with full name, address, and phone number. Please be aware that if you are using video, other people will be able to see you, and anything that is broadcast will be recorded. The agenda lists all topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Does anyone first of all, is everyone on the commission unmuted? Oh, let's do a roll call, make sure everybody's here. Here, everybody. Ken Jones?
Ken's muted.
Ken, aha. Asked to unmute.
I'm here. That was my dog barking, so I had to mute myself.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Ken Jones, Rich Birch.
Here.
Katie Childs.
Here.
Carl Luck.
Here.
Jack Rabbit.
Here.
Jeff Viviano.
Here.
And also Mike LaRouche. He's an associate member.
Here.
Thank you, Mike. Are there any announcements or comments from the members of the commission?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Jack.
I think I've raised my hand now. I just want to very quickly mark a kind of a sad event for Lunenburg. Folks may recall Nancy Ireland Scholl. She's recently passed, but she was the chairman of the Conservation Commission, as well as an elected member and chairman of the Lunenburg Planning Board. She was passed along at 96, and I just think it's really neat when we can see the results. We're living the results of the efforts that those volunteers put in back then. My hat's off to her, and my condolences to the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Are there any other comment? Jack, Carl Luck.
Thank you, Bob. I want to comment. I haven't seen any reports from the LSIC on the deficit Lake Shirley. I know 2 weeks ago, roughly 2 weeks ago, it was 6 feet, down 6 feet, which was marvelous. It's a goal that's been hard to achieve for quite a few years. Unfortunately, it appears that the lakes come up to about 4 feet, come up probably a couple of feet at least at this time, which is unfortunate, and rain's coming. I was hoping, I was half hoping that we would have someone come in tonight and ask for an emergency to reopen the dam, since the official time is now past the December 1 for the dam to be open. Just very concerned. It's with the level at this level, it's not unlikely that it could come up a couple more feet quite easily. A couple inches of rain will pop it up 2 feet. And I'm hoping, I hope someone's out there, and I hope the LSIC is considering coming in for an emergency approval. I certainly know I would be willing to have a special meeting, because time is running out on gaining on that. And the commission's been very cooperative in having special meetings in emergency situations. If that doesn't happen, I would encourage anyone who lives on the lake to take a look and consider getting their docks in if they haven't already, because again, it is, if nothing changes, it's not unlikely that some point when the ice freezes, it'll be up a couple of feet. And at a couple of feet, I've seen a number of docks that will be potentially damaged. So again, I encourage the LSIC to consider coming in for an emergency approval so that we could have a meaningful drawdown and reduce the amount of chemicals we need to put in the lake. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the members of the commission? Are there any comments from the members of the public? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll go into our forum. We're going to conduct this like a public hearing. We're not going to call it a public hearing because there's no provision to require a public hearing to amend our land use policy. But we're very interested in input from the public. And so we scheduled this public forum, this hearing tonight. And the proposed revisions, the first draft of the revisions was posted on the website where people can download them and look at them. Let's see if I got anybody in the waiting room. I don't think so. I will say that I do not anticipate that the commission taking any action on these revisions tonight. We just received within the last half hour a lengthy list of comments from the town attorney. We've received quite a few letters just today. So tonight, the purpose of tonight is to listen to the public and receive their input. And with that, are there any comments from the members of the commission to start? Jack Rabbit.
Mr. Chairman, I've done quite a bit of research as well as some other members. I'm believing that we're going to save those comments for when we actually go through it and make the adjustments, and that we are just right now looking at them. And I'd be keenly interested if you could potentially paraphrase what the attorney said or just the notification you've just received from them, and that will help form our ideas a little bit better as we're listening to the public. And again, I've done quite a bit of research, but I don't think it'd be appropriate that I share that right now. I'd rather hear from the public.
Jack, I have not had a chance to even look at the attorney's comments.
Okay.
They literally came in within the last hour. I just made them available to the members of the commission probably around 6:30 or so.
Okay.
And put them on the cloud. I'm not going to go through them at this time. You know, when I send him the request for input, my primary question was about limiting liability. He did call me and tell me that, you know, he's suggesting that we require waivers for people to go out and do work on the property. And he also told me he went through the entire document with idea to look towards internal consistency in the use of language and stuff like that. But I think that's a pretty deep dive, and I don't wish, we also have another 9 public hearings after this public forum tonight, and I don't intend to do that tonight.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
We have received a letter from one of our selectmen, and he asked that it be read as part of this discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, and are we going to read it, or are you going to read it, or?
I didn't see in the letter on hunting that he asked that it be read. I saw in the letter on one of our public hearings, he asked it to be read. I wasn't planning on reading it.
Okay, and there were a number of other letters that are written. Would we be reading those at all?
They're available to the members of the commission. I wasn't planning on reading all the letters.
Okay,
You know, if someone feels that that's not the right way to do it, I'd be happy to listen, but I don't think that that's, I don't think it's necessary. The letters are there for the benefit of the commission.
okay,
And the commissioners, and as I said earlier, I don't anticipate that we're going to take action on this tonight. I'm hoping that the commissioners will have time to read all the letters, or reflect on tonight's comment, you know, go through the town attorney's comments, you know, and we'll take it up again at our next meeting.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Rich Birch.
Yeah, just a quick, to Jack's point, the first sentence in the letter that was sent was, I kindly ask you to read the following statement into the record at the meeting. I'm
Okay.
unable to attend the meeting tonight due to prior work commitment.
So is someone volunteering to read it? I'm not going to read it. Jack, you're volunteering to read it?
Oh, I've got another letter I've got to read for him. Another part of the hearing. Someone else should do it. Oh, God. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can find it.
I'll read it, Jack.
Okay, thanks, Rich.
I, Selectman Michael Ray Jeffries of 1170 Massachusetts Avenue, am unable to attend tonight's meeting and am thankful for this public comment being read into the record for the consideration of the commission. The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution reads, "A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Depending upon one's world view, this has been interpreted to mean many things. But the literal words read, "The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." And yet, quite openly and boldly, this commission proposes to continue that infringement. At some point, each of us contemplates the effect that guns have on our society. And as we look into the eyes of those whom we love, we see endless possibilities for what the future will hold. Perhaps it is only natural for us, in our love and compassion for one another, to do what we can to minimize opportunities for senseless injury and premature deaths. As such, it follows that to encourage recreation on public lands, the commission would be mindful of how to do so in a way that casts the broadest net of appeal to the public. The more people who participate, the better. I've learned over my lifetime of public service that power is not something that any of us has. Instead, it is a burden that we temporarily hold. We are custodians. Sometimes it's beneficial for there to be unelected boards to enforce multiple layers of public policy, to offer continuity and focused expertise, and to avoid suffering the whims of the politics of the day. But it's always necessary for those in the positions of trust to recognize where their authority ends, and at least where it crosses into muddy water. I encourage the members of the commission to set aside your political views on firearms and evaluate what your purport authority to regulate the Second Amendment on public land derives. What complex web do we have to untangle, and what mangled road launches from the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and lands you at the deciding at deciding that the possession of any firearm on public conservation land so negatively impacts its ability to be conserved that it is therefore unilaterally prohibited? At what point did the people, in appointing this commission to care for its conservation land, knowingly forego any of the freedoms and protections otherwise afforded by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights? Try to imagine a revolutionary America in which our foundational documents were birthed. Imagine that war on our soil. And imagine the absurdity of citizens being unable to traverse public lands with a firearm in defense of our highest ideals. The same freedoms enshrined in that era remain in place and are unchanged today. Nonetheless, the existing policies, regulations of the Conservation Commission gives a placard and a dog more of a right to be on conservation land in Lunenburg than a law-abiding citizen with a firearm. And that just does not make any sense. The regulatory authority for the exercise of the Second Amendment on public property in Lunenburg rests with the Board of Selectmen. That is the clear will of the people to codify the laws of the Commonwealth. The Conservation Commission should adopt policies that reflect that and defer to the Select Board for those case-by-case determinations when hunting is requested. Where's my mouse? In your quest to conserve and preserve public land, there should be a nexus between all regulations and their contributions to the conservation and preservation of that land. The nexus for the majority of the policies regulations is clear, but the clarification to bow hunting in section 1.1 and section 2.11 in particular prohibits the possession or discharge of any firearm. A nexus between those policies and land conservation for posterity simply does not exist. I think that you should also reevaluate all language that refers to the land under the care, custody, and control of the Conservation Commission to not read property owned by the Conservation Commission or Conservation Commission land. The public owns conservation land and you are the custodians. I strongly encourage a tone and word choices that better reflect the actual relationship between the public, their conservation land, and the Conservation Commission. Lastly, I encourage you to be mindful of your public audience in the word choices throughout. In section 2.15, the proposed language is inexact and assigns a duty to an inanimate object. Perhaps what is intended is for the resident who install tree stands to have their name and contact information on the tree stand. Section 2.20 refers to the dog officer that is now referred to as the animal control officer. Section 2.9 refers proof of insurance liability coverage. This is commonly referred to as a certificate of compliance, and the required amount of liability should be stated. Section 3.2 refers to the mechanical removal of invasives. Please define that terminology or reword it so that the average person reading this understands what a mechanical removal is. Since permission to remove invasives is required, is it necessary to list them all out in this policy? Or could a handout be given to someone when they apply? Please clarify if you mean to outsource the safety of bridges to the public at large in section 3.3. Perhaps RDA should be added into parentheses after the first reference of a request for determination of applicability and a summary of what this may be appropriate, since it is referenced several times without a source. After section 3.7, the request to report missing and damaged trail signs begs the question of to whom and how. I sincerely hope that you will consider these many concerns as you revise your policies, and I trust that the end state you desire will be achieved through a more approachable policy that reads less like the rules to use a private estate and more like guidelines for the common enjoyment and stewardship of common lands. Thank you for your consideration. I'm Michael Ray Jeffries.
Richard, thank you so much for reading the letter. Carl Luck.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I've a couple of points on that particular letter. Thank you, Richard, for reading it so well. And one general comment on the question on the letters. On Mr. Jeffries' letter, he made a statement that the regulatory authority rests with the BOS. And I believe we've gotten input from council to the contrary on that. And I'm wondering if we could, for the public's sake, and Mr. Jeffries, share the input from council on who has the authority regarding that issue. Secondly, on the letter, Mr. Jeffries raised some excellent points in his next to last paragraph, some very specific things to look at in the in our regulations that that sound pretty important and meaningful. So I'm glad we're not going to finalize, because I think we need to take a hard look at those specific suggestions. And then finally, regarding the letters, how are we going to make these letters available to the public? These letters are public documents, and the public should have access to them. And I don't know if we want to somehow facilitate that, or at least make it aware to the public that they can get a copy of these documents if requested. And I would suggest, this is a better idea, to request them through our agent, as opposed to going the public document request method, which just creates a lot of work for people. So to summarize, if we could share what the legal input was on who has the authority regarding hunting on conservation land, and then secondly, how are we going to facilitate making these letters available to people who are.
Thank you, Carl. I will read. I wrote to Adam Costa on previously and asked them 3 questions about our current conservation rules, our current land use policy. And the first question was does our current land use policy ban the use of firearms, in his opinion? Is it clear that it bans the use of firearms? And he said, yes, it is clear. I'm summarizing 3 paragraphs that he wrote that said that. And the second one I'm going to read verbatim. He says that I asked him, does the select board have the authority to allow hunting on conservation lands in spite of any policies adopted by the Conservation Commission? His answer is, in my opinion, no. So long as conservation lands you reference are owned of record in the care and custody and control of the Conservation Commission or otherwise for conservation purposes, it is the commission that determines what uses are made of the property as stated above. If the commission prohibits hunting, the select board cannot allow it. What the select board could do, however, is propose a future transfer via town meeting vote of the land to the town for general municipal purposes, i.e. in the case custody and control of the select board could thereafter dictate use of the land. Of course, Article 97 could complicate or prevent such a transfer. And he goes on, but that's the first paragraph. And I believe, does the select board have the authority to allow hunting on conservation land in spite of any policies adopted by the Conservation Commission? In our town attorney's opinion, the answer is no. But he goes on to say, well, the select board could then take and propose to transfer the land away from the Conservation Commission, but they can't overrule the Conservation Commission's land use policy. Does that address your question, Carl?
Yes, I think that was quite clear. And
I would just say anybody out there who would like to see a copy of all the letters should send a letter to our agent, and I'm sure he'd be happy to send them to him.
Great.
Are there any other comments or questions? Jack Rabbit.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I believe that the crux is not so much the hunting. It's essentially a function of a discharge of a firearm. And essentially, our town bylaw, 145-1 says no person shall fire or discharge any firearms or explosives of any kind within the limits of the highway, park, or public property, except with the consent of the Board of Selectmen. This is specifically addressing firearms. The question we asked the attorney was hunting. We do allow hunting. We allow hunting, bow hunting. We allow hunting in the hunting hill area. So, and this was voted on by the town, which essentially those bylaws essentially trump, so to speak, our own regulations. And so the question perhaps to follow up with our attorney is, does he believe that given the bylaw that we have, that right now the ability to actually go out and discharge a firearm is well within the purview of the selectmen. And therefore, we can create lots of things. We can allow hunting, but we can't necessarily say, yeah, go out and discharge firearms. And in fact, if you look at one of our sections, we even identify Hunting Hill as one, and the town came back when they voted it, was to essentially say, yeah, okay, the selectmen can't approve hunting. And that's one of the reasons. But the town did vote against the discharge of firearms, and it is in our bylaws. So therefore, if we wanted to make a change, and it's real clear by the state, then after public notice and public hearing, the commission shall promulgate, that's our rules, promulgate the regulations effective. The failure by the commission to promulgate such rules and regulations or legal declaration of their invalidity by a court shall not act to suspend or invalidate the effect of this bylaw. So essentially, the bylaw wins. At minimum, these regulations should define key terms in this bylaw, not inconsistent with the bylaw. So if we come back and say, yeah, you can discharge firearms, we're now in conflict with this bylaw. And essentially, we have to get together with the selectmen and make a decision in terms of how we would want to handle that. Now, the state also, more research, and as you probably, anybody, our team has looked, you're probably noticing that every town has their own ways of executing this, and it's some allow it, some of them don't, some of them put all sorts of specifications in there, but essentially, it's right now, my perception is if we ask the question appropriately, meaning firearms versus hunting, we would get a different response from our attorney. And I think that we would have to amend that. We would probably have to go back to the town and seek a change to that bylaw. That's my interpretation so far, Bob.
Thank you, Jack. I would like to make it clear that what you just said is your interpretation.
Exactly right.
That is not what the town attorney has told me.
Based on the question, the way you preferenced the question, Bob, it was hunting. And I have, there's no objections to hunting. It was a function of the firearm. And unless you can read it, did it specifically say firearm, Bob, or did it just say hunting?
It said hunting.
Yeah. So I think that the preface and the big discussion that's going to come up is hunting. And by the way, selectmen can come back and ask us to identify areas in which hunting with a firearm could be feasible. And I know off the top of my head, we have at least 5 properties in excess of 100 acres that we could come back, but it's still all up to them whether or not they allow that particular person to hunt with a firearm.
Thank you, Jack. I'm going to call on Tom Alonso. Well, let me see if I can unmute him. I think what happened to Tom Alonso? Where'd he go? Tom, can you raise your hand again so you pop to the top of the thing? Thank you, Tom. I think I unmuted you, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to respond first to the discussion because I have the town council's answers to the chair's questions in front of me as well. Although the question number 2, there were 3 questions, although question number 2 does not specify firearms. The other 2 questions do, and I think the answer of town council responded in a method that assumed that this was also about firearms because he mentions firearms in his final paragraph, which the chair did not read. What the town council has said is that if the Conservation Commission denies hunting, and again, in light of the whole document, this whole document was about firearms, I think he's assuming that if the Conservation Commission denies that in their land policy, the selectmen, in his opinion, could not overturn that and allow it. But he says the reverse is not true. If the Conservation Commission allows it, it's still by section 145-1 of the General Code bylaw would have to go to the selectmen or the select board to approve it. So they would have denial at that level, but we could not overturn your denial. because your denial would preclude anybody coming to us asking for that permission. I happen to concur with that. I'm not an attorney, but I happen to concur with that opinion. But I wanted to just be clear in what he wrote. Number two, I have the red line version, both the latest one that came in this afternoon or late, almost this evening, and the one that the chair had submitted. And I have a question for the chair and for the commission. In the red line version, it seems like you are keeping the restriction on firearms, except for the one Hunting Hill property that it is by deed, I think, allowed. Are you proposing, because the red line version shows that unchanged, is the commission proposing changing that or not?
The red line version that's available on the website proposes to clarify the town attorney's interpretation that hunting with firearms is not allowed on any lands except for Hunting Hills. That was the intent. We haven't voted on that yet. A straw poll at the last meeting showed that there were more commissioners in favor of that than there were in favor of allowing firearms, but there's been no vote and it's just a draft at this point. Did I answer your question or did I miss
Yeah,
something?
I think you have, to the best of your ability right now. And I guess I'm on this to encourage the commission to maintain that restriction, notwithstanding my fellow selectman's, passionate letter. I think he is clearly off point that this is a Bill of Rights second amendment restriction, because it's held in many other municipalities in the Commonwealth and other places in the country. I think this is a safety issue that if you're going to encourage people using for recreational purposes that involve animals, small children, young people, or anybody to mix and match that in parcels with firearms, I think would be a severe liability for the town and certainly create a safety hazard that is unnecessary, as there are other places with larger tracts of land that are state-owned land, even nearby, that is available. So I would encourage the commission not to change this restriction and keep it as is, because that really makes things clear. And I think if there is there has been no contention with the select board and the Conservation Commission on this issue. This came before us last year, and the vote was to, uphold the restriction, even from a select board point of view. If there seems to be a conflict between the commission and the select board, that is not a good signal either. Then we're going to have people trying to, really pit one against the other. I would like a unified front. It makes things clearer, it makes things easier, and in the end, it makes things safer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ken Jones.
I defer to Matt if he wants to make a comment. He's had his hand up longer than I have, but.
Okay, Matt Murrow.
Yes, thank you. I've also spoken with, in addition to Bob's written opinion, I've spoken to Adam Coster about this particular issue on more than one occasion. And when it comes to the discharge of firearms is a separate bylaw. So as our esteemed Board of Selectmen member was basically stating, and I agree with, and this is what Adam Costa is saying, the issue isn't if the commission says no firearms on any conservation land. The commission has a right to do that as the stewards of the land if that's how the commission votes. It doesn't override the Board of Selectmen's authority in granting permission to use a firearm. However, it can't happen on conservation land if the commission decides not to. The bylaw for the selectmen pertains to any piece of town land, whether it be under the care and control and custody of the Conservation Commission or the care and control and custody of the Board of Selectmen. For example, I believe it's the Woodruff property. If we were to turn around and say the commission is not allowing the discharge of firearms on any conservation land, if you guys vote that stands. However, the Woodruff property technically is under the control of the Board of Selectmen. So that area is often, I believe it's often hunted. It's a larger piece of open space. And if the Board of Selectmen turn around and grant a resident or a hunter permission to discharge the firearm on that property, it's out of commission control. There's actually a difference in how that regulation applies. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion came from. And honestly, I agree with what Mr. Alonso has said regarding that. And I think Adam Costa's interpretation is fairly clear.
What, anything else, Matt?
Nope.
Now we'll go to Ken Jones, and then we'll go to Mark.
I just, I've been going back and forth on this, and I've done a fair amount of research like I think everybody else has. And I was actually quite surprised to find in the surrounding communities, specifically Groton, Pepperell, Shirley, and Westminster, they do allow firearm hunting on conservation land. There are some exceptions, and they specifically outline which parcels they're not allowed on, and rather than saying which ones they are allowed on. So I think to me that shows that is a fairly commonplace thing to allow firearms on conservation land in our specific area. I guess I probably am in the minority that of the commission members, at least based on our straw poll at the last meeting, that I believe that firearms hunting should be allowed on some of our parcels of land. I think it can be done safely. And I think that as a whole, the hunting community is responsible and very safety minded and conscious. So do I think it could be done? Do I think we could change our land use policy to allow it? I do. So I would, I feel like that's sort of where I'm at right now. So I was surprised by the fact that there are communities surrounding us that do allow it. And I think it can be done safely and keeping everybody's interest in mind. So, but I'd love to hear from some of the public.
Thank you, Ken. Mark Birch. I think that's Mark. Mark,
Yep.
whoever Mark is.
Good looking one.
For those of you that don't know me, my name's Mark Birch. I lived in Lunenburg for my entire life, for 50 years. I agree with Ken Jones. I've looked into it. Not only surrounding communities allow hunting on conservation lands, as far as the state is concerned, all open space owned by the state is allowed to be hunted. I come from a multi-generation of outdoorsmen and outdoors women. People that I don't know if they've read into passive recreation is what conservation land is about. And hunting is listed as passive recreation. To me, it's a lot of times it's my time with family and friends in the outdoors, enjoying the outdoor environment, as others would hiking, mountain biking, fishing, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. I've looked into a lot of different data, and I mean, you can twist data any way you want, but I don't think hunting is any more hazardous than any other outdoor recreational activity. Hunters go through extensive background checks to be able to use firearms. You have to have a hunter safety class in order to get a license. I think that a lot of hunters respect the firearms that they have and they use and how to use them safely. Yes, Lunenburg allows hunting on Hunting Hill. That isn't really a Lunenburg allows. The way that land was purchased, the state mandates that you can hunt with a firearm on that property. It's a rather small parcel. I think that we have enough larger parcels that that we could split the use or look at other means where I would be able to do my outdoor activity as well as other people to be able to do theirs. Open space is on the decline I remember hunting many spots in town that now there's housing developments, Walmart, so there's less and less open space. And the idea of conservation is to maintain open space. And I would like to see hunting opened up in some of those open spaces. A lot of those spaces border properties that already allow hunting, so it only makes sense. As a resident, my taxes go towards the conservation land as much as anybody else's. I don't see why the passive use that I'm requesting is any less than somebody else's passive use. There is a few things Michael Ray Jeffries stated that I agreed with in his letter, a broad net, continuity, and basically a right for people to use this in the manner in which it's described. And again, hunting is listed as passive recreation. There's multiple properties. Being limited to one property in town that is actually smaller than some of the other properties. There are benefits to wildlife management, my hunting license, and any of my purchases for equipment that I use outdoors goes towards conservation and habitat management, which is all part of conservation. And again, I don't see a track record to where hunting is any more hazardous than any other activity you would be able to do outside in conservation land. That's about all I have for right now.
Thank you, Mark. Richard Birch, and then we'll call on Matt Morrow, and then we'll call on Lynn Mann.
Like my brother, I was born in Lunenburg, raised. I've hunted with my father. I've hunted with my grandfather. We've shot ducks, deer, geese, turkeys, rabbits for a lifetime in Lunenburg. I am disappointed, and not in this forum, but just in general, that guns and firearms and hunting have been drawn so closely together. Hunting is an activity that, at least for my brother and I, is a family activity. I smile when I watch my brother take my niece out and go hunting with her. I would be very disappointed to see that family activity banned in the town of Lunenburg. It is clear by what some of the other commissioners and other people's research has shown, hunting is done in most other towns around us. Hunting is an activity that has been going on for generations. And the lack of problems that we've had with that activity of hunting with firearms isn't ever brought up. There's certainly violence that happens with guns, and the violence of any form is abhorrent, and I'd hate to see it. But it is not hunters and hunting that are the genesis of gun violence. So I would hope that people tend to stand back and look at the emotional view of gun and gun control and the sport of hunting. The state currently allows it on public lands. The state regulates the use of firearms. The state licenses it, and the state promotes it. So again, it is seen as a viable recreational activity at the state level. It's done at most all other communities around us. Lunenburg is blessed that it does have quite a bit of large open space tracts. Unfortunately, Lunenburg is burdened that a lot of the larger tracts are not owned by the state, but are locally owned. Most of the towns around us have large tracts of state land that allow those residents to hunt on the state land and on the public lands as well. One of the other towns around us that does allow hunting with firearms is the city of Fitchburg. I did speak with the agent, Mike, yesterday, and he did send me the information on that. So I am in favor of hunting. I'm in favor of hunting on the larger tracts of land that we have up in the northern boundaries. We have 200 plus acres off of Howard Street that abuts DCR land in Townsend and Ashby. We do have the Hunting Hill property that abuts land in Shirley and Townsend. We have the small town forest that abuts land in Townsend. And we have the town forest that abuts land as well as is connected to the Lane property and the Peabody property owned by the North County Land Trust. So that does make a substantial tract of land. I would certainly be in favor of segregating out portions that are large enough that would allow hunting and leave lots of other tracts of land during the hunting season so that townspeople can still go out and use other public tracts of land. I don't think that it's necessarily fair that one group wants an activity on certain pieces of property, but are banned because somebody else says that they have the right to use a property whenever they want. You know, Lunenburg is blessed with dozens of pieces of public lands that are for use for the townspeople. If hunters want to use a few of those during the hunting season, and there's plenty of other lands that the townspeople can use, I do think that is a fair compromise. I sit here on the Conservation Commission, and we do have the, as Michael Ray said, the burden of the power and the control of the lands. So we should be trying to do what we can to allow everybody in town the access to some of the land at all times. So if hunters are using some of the land, there's still plenty of other land for townspeople to use. So again, I am fully in favor of allowing hunting on certain pieces of property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. I just want to say before we go on to our next commenter that the Conservation Commission allows bow hunting on all lands and all of its lands right now. And really this debate is about the hunting with firearms. And so that is, I just want to clarify that because when we're talking about hunting, really we're talking about hunting with firearms. There's been no discussion or thought given to changing the carte blanche to do bow hunting on all conservation lands. So tonight, when we say hunting, really, that's we're really talking about hunting with firearms. Matt Morrow, you raised your hand again.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, for the commission's clarification on the information it has on the cloud. Myself being the agent for the town of Westminster as well, and I noticed that you guys hold our particular abbreviated set of regulations on that, which are actually part of their bylaws more than they are a land use policy. They do allow hunting with firearms on all of their lands with exceptions listed. One of the exceptions listed, the Rambler Recreation Area, is actually now part of Hager Park. It was always kind of a part of Hager Park, but they listed it as two separate parcels at the time. It's now all been absorbed. The reason why any type of hunting was prohibited in that area is because the Rambler Conservation Area was essentially clear cut and made into a scenic vista. It's got a very high elevation. It's a very unique drumlin, and its 360-degree views are phenomenal. The Hager Park area is home to many Boy Scout camping activities. It's very concentrated in that area. So because there are focused and numerous recreational activities that didn't seem to be compatible with hunting, they decided to prohibit hunting on that particular piece, which is listed as 2. The other area, the Croco Pond Recreation Area, and anybody that travels through Westminster to Ashburnham will actually see Croco Pond on South Ashburnham Road and a sign noting the entrance to the recreation area. One of the main reasons why that was prohibited in that area is the Croco Pond Conservation Area has I guess you could call it a camping hut that is a very unique feature of the property. You have that area open to active camping. The area for camping is made by reservation. So in other words, they have to call the office and reserve it for a weekend. It's, first come, first serve on the hut, but there is also active camping allowed in the surrounding area as well. And that is utilized by a lot of elderly people, especially. And because of that, and the fact that it was focused and concentrated in one area, the town felt it best to prohibit hunting in its entirety on those particular pieces of land. The remainder of the town's open space is wide open to hunting in any form with firearms or with bow. Considering I do have experience working in other communities, I also spoke, and I know a lot of conservation agents. I didn't have the chance to speak to Shirley's agent. I noticed Shirley was on the cloud too. But I did have an email exchange with Paula over in Pepperell. Paula noted that when she first got there as a conservation agent, hunting was prohibited on all lands in all forms, with exceptions that are listed on their policy. They've allowed hunting in all forms to return. And the reason for that was they were getting overrun with deer. It was causing severe damage to the underbrush. It was causing nuisance problems with people's lands. And they actually had the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife weigh in on that in that area. Close to Pepperell is the town of Tingsboro. I have a lot of experience in dealing with Tingsboro because I was the conservation director there for 10 years. The town of Tingsboro allows hunting on their lands where it's lawfully allowed because they own a lot of small little 1-acre pieces in residential subdivisions that you couldn't meet the setbacks to do any type of hunting whatsoever. But they do allow it, and they spell out the hunting regulations on the access signage to their large pieces. In mid-tenure of my time with the town of Tingsboro, we had a resident that decided to file a lawsuit, an actual full-blown lawsuit against the town of Tingsboro to try to force them to prohibit the use of firearms. The town essentially refused to settle and was ready to go to court. Eventually, the homeowner dropped the lawsuit. But before the lawsuit was dropped, I was actually contacted by the State Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, and I kid you not, they actually had considered and were looking at going forward with the idea of filing on that lawsuit as an intervener on behalf of the town of Tingsboro to support its position on the use of firearms. It never got that far because the resident dropped the suit. I bring this stuff to your attention because I have the benefit of experience in dealing in multiple communities. In my tenure as a conservation agent, I've seen a lot of different scenarios play out. These are very personal decisions, but I wanted you guys to be aware of why certain things have been formulated the way they are, especially when it comes to the towns that are on your cloud right now that basically allow hunting with firearms and bow on their lands with the exception of certain parcels, and they list those parcels out. And I think that particular type of tack that those towns have taken actually supports Commissioner Birch's view on the subject of allowing in certain parcels and not in others. So this is obviously a personal decision with the commission.
Thank you, Matt.
It's a hard one, so I'll leave it to you guys.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Lynn Mann.
Hi, thanks. I have a little statement here that I wanted to read, but I have found this discussion really interesting. Well, I should introduce myself.
Can you get closer to your microphone, Lynn?
Okay, my name is Lynn Mann, 463 Burge Street in Lunenburg, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Bruce. And I have a statement that I had prepared that I wanted to read, but I just want to say first, before I get started, that really appreciating this discussion and can see different points of view. And I'm leaning definitely towards Richard Birch's perspective that maybe we look at some lands in a different way than other pieces of property. So that said, I'll just take a couple minutes to read the statement if I may. So to the members of the Conservation Commission, thank you for the opportunity to participate in a public discussion regarding the use of firearms for hunting on conservation properties. We believe that having an open conversation on this important topic is a necessary step in your decision-making process, and we appreciate your openness to any ideas expressed. Let me start by saying that we are not opposed to hunting in general. We actually have more respect for a person that is willing to hunt and consume an animal than for the rest of us that would only purchase meat in a grocery store under plastic wrap without thinking anything about the animal from which that meat came. We are also not opposed to the use of guns for sport, such as target practice or even hunting where this is already allowed. That said, we do oppose the use of firearms on public conservation lands. When you go for a walk in a conservation area, it may appear that you are alone and that these lands are not heavily used. If you spend a lot of time out there, however, you soon notice that you are not alone. We often bump into other people, both local friends and people who have traveled to walk in the woods. Many have dogs and some bring their children. Some ride horses or ride their bikes. In short, there are a lot of people that use these lands. Conservation properties are tremendous assets to the town of Lunenburg. They provide essential places for us to exercise, relax, and become aware of the natural beauty around us. They bring us together as a community. As health and public health professionals for over 40 years, we also know that there are significant health benefits that come with the ability to be in undisturbed forests. These include positive effects on blood pressure, boosting our immune systems, stress reduction, ability to focus, and improving sleep, all important for health and well-being. Currently, the law allows for bow hunting during a limited time period in the winter. This puts a little bit of strain on some of us who walk, bike, or ski in the woods, but mostly we are willing to wear orange and share during these times. For some people, however, it causes enough anxiety that they will avoid conservation lands during those periods. Firearms have a much longer range, and although rare, accidental discharge with firearms is more likely than with bows. Thus, allowing firearms hunting in conservation areas would pose a small but significant safety risk that seems unnecessary. In addition, bow hunting is quiet and therefore less disruptive in a peaceful environment. Finally, there are many properties nearby, both public and private, in which firearms hunting is allowed. So there's really no need to expand that into the limited areas that we have designated for recreation. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the Conservation Commission accept the updated land use policy that is currently written. And again, just as an amendment to even this statement, I think that it's reasonable to designate certain lands for firearm hunting that maybe are not used for recreation and not used by a lot of people in the public. But for those areas that are, it seems like it would introduce a liability and a safety hazard in the town. That's how it seems to us.
Thank you, Lynn. Susan, can you please state your name and address?
Hi, I'm Susan Dempsey and I live at 108 Robbs Hill Road. And basically I'm going to say what Lynn said. Part of the rules 2.5 is any behavior, conduct, and or activity that infringes on another's undisturbed and quiet enjoyment is prohibited. Firearms going off would kind of upset that. And as Lynn pointed out, and I was thinking the same thing independently, sounds like there are plenty of spaces for hunters. And as you can guess, it's the Robbs Hill Conservation Area that we use. And I saw rules about how far from a house and how far from a street, but how far from a hiking trail? We bring a grandchild out there, and it just seems that there'll be plenty of other opportunities for the hunters. And we would like some, if all state land is open to hunting, then how about leaving some space where people can walk? Because there's no way me going for a walk's ever going to hurt anybody else. Whereas someone with a firearm could potentially. And I totally respect that folks take courses on the firearms, but let's keep the peace and quiet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Katie Childs.
So I just want to start by saying, in general, I am opposed to firearm hunting on conservation land. However, I have my ears open, my mind's open during this discussion. Pretty much, I'm not opposed to hunting. It's great for the ecosystem. I'm not opposed to firearms. But I think what Richard was saying earlier has a lot of merit in designated specific areas for hunting. For example, I know Ken sent us a whole bunch of links earlier. Groton does a great job. They have specific trails for dogs in the public, and then they have signs all cordoning off what areas are allowed to be hunted. However, I think if we do end up allowing it on public land, there would have to be a lot of public outreach. I personally don't really know when hunting season starts for the different types of animals. I generally do, but not really. So I think there'd have to be a lot of public outreach and when people would have to wear orange, what time hunting season is. And I think it's just a lot to consider, but I think this is definitely a great discussion that we're having.
Thank you so much, Katie. Jeff Viviano.
I think what Rich had summarized there was excellent and very, I guess, in tune with what I believe. I've hunted my whole life. It's very relaxing. It's very rewarding at times, but it is also very safe. So I think the residents in Lunenburg, it would be very nice for them to have some of that space designated and opened up for firearms hunting. So I would just like to reiterate what Rich said. I would have to agree with that. So that would be my position here about that.
Anything else, Jeff?
No, that's about it.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I'm going to lower your hand. Mark, you have something new to say?
Just a couple quick things. Hunting is not 365 days a year. They're very limited seasons. So, I think that there is something that could be worked out with specific parcels considering the limited seasons for hunting with a firearm. Another neat little fact, I did speak with the chief of police. In the last 3 years, townwide, he's had 11 calls regarding hunting. 3 years, 11 calls. He felt this was a rather low number. And I would think that from what I've heard, well, there's probably been at least 5 deer struck by motor vehicle in this fall alone.
Oh, that's true.
So
That's a point.
that would just increase. And again, the decrease in open space that I've seen on allowable hunting land in town, I would like to see some conservation land opened up because it is listed in state laws or state regulations as passive recreation. And I feel that, that would be how I would utilize the conservation land. And I would respect the others that would be using it in the same time, even if they had a different use, where I would hope they would respect my use and how I would like to use. Lastly, I am not speaking only for myself. I spoke to a great number of families, and if I needed to, Mr. Chairman, I could provide a list of families that support the same views that I have for use for hunting with a firearm on conservation property in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Jack, you got something new?
Yes, two other points, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I have also spoken with a number of people, and to clarify a point, I have not made up my mind. I hunted. I had a long rifle up until about 10 years ago. I have a pellet gun, and I go out with a bunch of guys during the winter, and we shoot in the basement. We have a great time with it. I love Target. We have two gun clubs in town that offer a tremendous opportunity for people who enjoy that kind of sport, you know, and archery as well. So I just want to be clear that the talking to people, and I've received, you know, as you would expect, two polarizing pieces, but the part that gets me is that 2.5, the behavior, conduct, and activity that infringes on an undisturbed and quiet enjoyment is prohibited. I've spoken with a grandmother who has real concerns that her children, they go out and play in the woods, you know, and she may tell them not to go in the woods during hunting season. I know my mother did, but I know that I did. So, you know, you've got that issue, in that you're now starting to take a proportion of the population that would normally, there's adjacent pieces that aren't allowed on that property. I think that the logical extension would be, well, we select a property that we would essentially allow, but you're excluding a lot of local residents. And is that number of people who gain enjoyment from hunting enough to offset the number of people who will not be allowed to have that enjoyment? And it's not saying you can't walk through the woods, but I tell you what, as a couple of them have told me, they're petrified of the idea of being out there with people walking the trails with guns. Okay, so that's part number one, and that we are infringing on people, even though we're allowing another group of people to utilize it. And I get the argument, totally get the argument on you know, allowing me to do it. But there's another piece, there's an administrative piece, and this is I'm not making this stuff up, it's out of the state laws and state regs. And depending on the towns and municipal lands may be open to hunting, you may find that there are restrictions of huntings in these lands, including special rules. We are going to have to go through all the possibilities as a conservation commission to identify all the rules that might be required. There may be special permits required. I know we issue permits out of town hall. I don't know how they count. I don't know whether they do checks on people before that. I don't know how that system works, but we need to make sure that's there. Right now, I know we have a surplus of deer. I would encourage all the bow hunters in the world to get out there for sure, because we do need to knock that population down a little bit. But what's going to happen is, all of a sudden, are we going to have lottery drawings? Are we going to have other people coming in from town that aren't necessarily totally familiar, even though they may be well-trained hunters, even though they should be checking out what our town requires? Are they going to have easy access to it? And then again, the designated hunting areas. How is somebody who comes in knowing that they're 500 feet from a home? So there are those types of activities that we need to somehow be proactive about if we do designate an area. So there's a lot of pieces. Before I say, yes, I'll support it, I want those pieces to be clearly identified, and then we have action plans around that to maximize the safety as well as preserve the enjoyment of that property for all the other abutting residences. And we have we have some work to do before I would support it. But if we do the work, I might go with it, you know? So that's my point. We got two other pieces to address. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. There's a lot to these. We've been at this for an hour. There's a lot to this revision other than hunting. So I'd like to take the next four people who already had their hand up. And after that, I'd like to see if anyone has any comments on anything other than the hunting provisions. So I believe that Tom Alonso was next. Let me ask him to unmute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be brief. Just some rebuttal points to some of the things that were brought up. First of all, to the previous speaker, I think he said many points very, very well, and I support all of them, especially the reference to Regulation 2.5, which has to do with the infringement of other people's right to undisturbed and quiet enjoyment, which is clearly a provision in there that I believe that the Conservation Commission takes seriously. As to the reports of how many hunting reports were reported to the police over X amount of years, it's not surprising since we don't allow hunting on public properties. So that number should be surprisingly low. I would be surprised if it was higher than that, because that means people are illegally discharging firearms places. So that would be disturbing. Number two, one of the previous speakers talked about denying access to people because they happen to enjoy hunting. I want to be clear that no one is denied access to the conservation properties. Activities may be restricted, but no person. If you're a person who only enjoys conservation property for the hunting, well, that's certainly your prerogative, but you as a person are not denied access to and the use of the properties, as long as they're within the guidelines. And lastly, I would say that in bringing up all the neighboring areas, such as, Townsend and Shirley and Westminster that have areas, and Groton, and certainly the state park north of us, I would say that there's certainly no limit to nearby access to hunting for those who want it. So the fact that Lunenburg doesn't allow it on our personal land is not really restrictive to the activity, because it's clear that going 10 miles, 5 miles in any direction makes it accessible to people. So I would say that it's not overly restrictive. And lastly, I would say that it has been denied as an activity for so long. I don't see the impetus to change that. And I think it would adversely, as the previous speaker said, adversely affect people who enjoy it year round, and would cause them to not use the property, which I think would be in complete contrary notion to what the policy use should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura, can you please state your name and address?
Hi, I'm Laura Balsam, and I live on Robs Hill Road. And I agree with what Sue Dempsey and Lynn Mann said for the most part. And one question I do have is that I keep hearing how short hunting season is. But when you look at the, I guess it's a mass wildlife hunting seasons and bag limits, I mean, they have hunting season for, for deer, for bear, for crow, for pheasant, for quail, ruffed grouse. And again, I don't know how many of these animals actually live in Lunenburg, but there's, rabbits, there's even a gray squirrel season. And in the fine print, it says the following species may be taken year round, except during shotgun deer season, by licensed hunters with no daily or seasonal bag limit. And I'm assuming these are just like nuisance animals, because it's like English sparrow, flying squirrel, red squirrel, chipmunk, porcupine, skunk, starling, weasel, and woodchuck. How do you control that if you allow hunting on conservation lands? Would be my question.
Anything else, Laura?
No. Oh, well, actually, yes, that was just the regular hunting seasons. There's also a whole list of migratory game bird seasons. And again, I don't know how many of them would be hunted in Lunenburg, but there's a whole nother list of hunting seasons. So to me, hunting season is not a short time frame during the year. Of course, I don't hunt, so I'm not sure how many of these hunting seasons are applicable in Lunenburg, but it would be interesting to know before we went forward. I guess that's it.
Thank you, Laura. Lynn Mann, you got something new? Well, let me unmute you.
Mute. Okay, sorry. No, actually, I was just going to ask about the timing. I know, Mark, you had said that it's not year round, and Laura's done a lot of research on this, but I was wondering what your perception, or anybody else on the commission, is the perception of what the time frame might be. Like if firearm hunting is allowed, is it going to be during the same season as bow hunting and that would be it? Or is it something that would be more year round? It was just a question. And I also want to say I really appreciate the comments of Mr. Rabbit and Mr. Alonso. I agree with them, but I did have that question also.
Thank you, but all questions are addressed to the chair. And I would just say that I presume most people, when they're talking about hunting, they're talking about deer hunting. And deer hunting does have, you know, if you take and you look at the hunting rules that Laura was just talking about, you know, there are limited seasons for deer hunting. There's a bow hunting season, there's a black powder season, there's, you know, a shotgun season. Those are kind of limited, but you can hunt gray squirrel year round, you know, and other stuff. So
technically you would be able to do shotgun hunting for squirrels year round on a conservation land, if that was allowed?
if it was allowed,
Okay.
but that at least that's my understanding, and I've been proven wrong many times before. So well, we will certainly research that.
Thank you.
Ken Jones.
I think this has been a great discussion. I just think that we need to be very careful about, and I'm hypersensitive. I'm not a hunter per se, and I'm not a snowmobiler per se, but I think we need to be very careful about throwing out this section of the bylaw that we're talking about, this 2.5, and, you know, things that disturb people's peace. We allow snowmobiles. And when I'm snowshoeing down a trail in the conservation land, 6 snowmobiles riding through it 50 miles an hour is a lot more disturbing to me than the off chance that somebody's going to be using a firearm hunting. So I think we need to be careful about that. And I think that we need to be sensitive to multi-use on our properties. We allow snowmobiling, which conflicts with cross-country skiing and snowshoeing and things like that. We have things that we allow that conflict with each other. So I think we just need to be careful about, you know, throwing these things around saying, well, firearms is going to disturb my peace and quiet. To me, snowmobile is far more disturbing to my peace and quiet than firearms, and we already allow that. So I think we just need to be careful of that, and we need to be sensitive to multi-use opportunities on all of our pieces of property. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. 978-870-6862. Please give your name and address.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can you please give your name and address?
Yes, it's Steve Weaver at 288 Holman Street in Lunenburg, Massachusetts. And I have a license to carry, and I also have hunted in the past. I'm a Vietnam vet. I'm a past police officer, firefighter, and EMT. And I live right next door to the Holman Street property, the Lane property. And, you know, the North County Peabody property across the street from the Lane property offers hunting. And there have been children riding bikes down that trail, and they've come out onto the road scared because they thought somebody was shooting at them. And I know that talking about surrounding towns, Bolton Flats is a state-owned facility, and every other year there's somebody shot over there. The problem is that it's open to everybody, and you can get people coming in that go hunting once a year or hardly ever from Boston or Worcester, and you don't really know who's on that land hunting. So it is a safety hazard. There are an awful lot of terrific hunters, but I'd like to tell you that I had a friend who was the number third person on the FBI. His name was William Sullivan from Bolton. and he was killed on his property by a hunter, shot. So accidents do happen to even the best people. And so with children out there mixed with the firearms, I think it's a very hazardous situation. So I would discourage it. And the gunshots do disturb the neighbors too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any comments about any aspect of this regulations other than hunting? Please raise your hand. In education, they call this wait time.
That's true. Wait them out.
If there is no other comments, then I propose to end this session. We got a lot to think about. We'll be talking about this at our next meeting. I believe at our next meeting, we have a much shorter agenda. Public is welcome, to tune in. But it won't be a public hearing, it won't be an open session. By that time, hopefully the commissioners will have had a chance to review everyone's comments. The commissioners who are in favor of allowing firearm hunting will have had a chance to come in with drafts of what they're proposing to see if they can get 4 votes. To allow what it is that they want to do, and we'll go from there. Does any commissioners want to say anything further on this matter before we go to our first of 9 public hearings?
Night.
Thank you so much. With that, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent by David and Kylie Boyvin, I hope I pronounced that correctly, for work at 81 Maple Parkway for the replacement of a septic system. The supporting documents are available for review at the Conservation Commission office I don't need to read that part. All right, we're done. Is there someone here for the Bovins? Please raise your hand and tell me how to really pronounce their name. Matt, you see anybody here for them? Matt, do you see anybody here for the Bovins? Or
No, I don't. And I know we had mentioned him on the sidewalk that the meeting was this Wednesday, and Steve Sears from David Ross did file the NOI to be on this meeting. So, I mean, they know the meeting's supposed to be tonight.
Well, let's just, we could either take a look at what they filed, or we could just continue. 81 Maple Parkway.
Does it have a DEP number?
Matt, do they have a DEP? Is this yeah, it is an NOI. That's
a
a
notice
good
of
question,
intent.
Ken. I doubt they have a DEP number.
So we'd have to continue it anyway. So
This-
I make a motion, we continue this hearing.
Second.
I see the commission's taking this right out of my hands. All right, roll call vote.
Chairman, date extended to when? Next meeting, right?
Oh,
The
yeah,
next
we
meeting.
need a vote to continue to a date certain, which is December 16th. That's what you
Oh.
said, correct, Ken?
Via Zoom, yes.
Yes. And the seconder, that's what he said. That's what you agreed to, right?
I agree to his change.
Thank you so much. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs. Katie Childs is sorry.
Aye.
Thank you, Katie. Carl Luck,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit. Jack Rabbit
Aye.
and Jeff Viviano. Whoop, I have to unmute. Jeff
Aye.
Viviano.
Aye.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, moving on to our second public hearing. The commission will hold a public hearing on notice of intent by Jeff Stone for work at Lot 1, 50 Page Street for the construction of a single-family home. And I believe,
Looks like Greg Roy is raising his hand.
Yep. Let's find, where's my participant list? Participants. Greg.
Just so the commission knows, just like the last one, there is no DEP number currently on this project.
Yeah, but I still would like to see if there's anything we'd like them to do.
No, I'm just letting you know. In fact, if you guys reference the cloud, the very last file on the meeting folder for the cloud tonight is the actual updated DEP number database in Excel that I took straight from their website because I keep our database based on their NOI information.
Greg, let me find your, Greg, can I, you hear me? Let's see if your microphone's working.
Everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, let me
Gotcha.
find your, application.
Sure. Mr. Chair, while you're doing that, it's certainly your prerogative, but I wanted to suggest, perhaps even in the interest of expediency, as you have 9 hearings, if you wanted to open the next one as well, and we talk about them concurrently, I would certainly not object to that. I filed them separately, more for, on the back end of projects. It's much easier to close one out when you have a closing on a house than it is to have multiple lots, but they certainly do relate to each other. So it's up to you. It's up to you.
Oh, we're gonna open the next one. Anything that would expedite, we're gonna do. So, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice sent by Jeff Stone for work at Lot 2, 50 Page Street for the construction of a single-family home. All right, so let me first of all share the screen. What happened to my Zoom screen? I gotta move this over here. I think this is the right one. Is that the right thing?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, so let's,
I'll give you a quick introduction and then happy to hear your questions and comments. My name is Greg Roy with Dillis and Roy, formerly Ducharme and Dillis. We recently had a name change, so
I like it.
didn't want to confuse anybody. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for opening both at once. As you stated, I'm here this evening representing Mr. Stone, who is the owner of the approximately 5.5 acres at 50 Page Street, which is located immediately adjacent to the cemetery property. It shares the stone wall.
the cemetery is located to the east of the property. And the property is located on the southerly side of Page Street. So there is a bordering vegetated wetland that is located in the westerly portion of the property that impacts both of the proposed lots, both lots 1 and 2, which is delineated on the plans. It's shown there, labeled in the plan you can see on your screen as bordering vegetated wetland on the left-hand side, with the dot hatch shown. We've also depicted on the plan your 30-foot no-touch zone, which is the next heavy dash line that you can see on the plan immediately to the right of the wetland. And then the next dashed, sort of longer dash line that exists is the limit of your 50-foot no-build zone, as depicted on the plan. And then if you go 50 feet further upward, up gradient, the next dash line is the limit of the 100-foot buffer zone. So for your reference, those are the resource areas and associated buffer zones and regulatory bylaw offsets as defined in your bylaw and associated regulations. So the proposed projects are both the same. They both construct a 4-bedroom. This one says 3, but we've actually designed 4-bedroom dwelling, 4-bedroom septic systems on these properties. That doesn't change the overall size of the building footprints that we're proposing. So both sites are proposing the construction of a single-family residential dwelling with an associated septic system. And both sites would be serviced by the municipal water system. So we're proposing a connection to the public water supply in the public water main that exists in Page Street. And then the driveway, of course, which would extend from Page Street down through the property to the house location. So this first house on lot 1 is actually the house that sits further back off the street. Because of the orientation of where the wetlands exist on the property, we've sited the houses in the front of the 5.5 acres, so closest to Page Street, and sort of on the easterly side of the property. One of the major constraints was needing to keep the leaching fields outside of the 100-foot buffer zone to the wetlands. So you'll see that in both cases, that is the case. The leaching areas have been kept outside the 100-foot buffer zone, which is driven by Board of Health regulations. The locations of those systems drives the proposed house locations. So we've set the house locations between the septic systems and outside of your 50-foot no-touch zone, no build zone, excuse me. And then you'll note on both plans that we have provided an undisturbed 30-foot buffer zone honoring your 30-foot no disturb zone. And we have included specifications for an erosion control barrier along that limit, so that we can prevent runoff during construction and erosion during construction into the bordering vegetated wetland area. Both of the houses would be walkouts. The grades lend themselves to that. Actually, you can minimize grading by doing a walkout in this case. So I think it actually benefits the construction activities at the site. And then the driveways are substantially outside of the buffer zone areas. They've been positioned on the up gradient side of the houses. So with the exception of the roof areas, I believe, and I have to go to the other plan here. Bear with me, I have it on my screen. There is a portion of the driveway for lot 2 that exists inside the 100-foot buffer zone, but in no cases does it go within the 50-foot no build zone. So we've tried to position that in such a way as to minimize impervious areas within the buffer zone. We've also tried to keep a couple of rather large maple trees. And this is again on the other plan, Mr. Chair, but the driveway associated with Lot 2, we've positioned to try to preserve some trees that exist along the parallel to Page Street. So we've tried to not, so that actually pushed it slightly closer to the buffer zone. You can see them right there. The tree, if you pan up a little bit, Mr. Chair, the trees are those, there's a couple of 18-inch maple trees there. So we've jogged the driveway around those to try to protect that vegetation along Page Street. So that's about all. I'm sure you'll have questions. I did want to note that we have jointly filed this with the Board of Health for permits. So it's currently under review. We filed that at the same time as we filed with your board. We provided Matt, I should have mentioned this first off, but we did provide Matt with the proof of mailings, abutter notifications earlier today via email. And I do note, as was discussed, that DEP has not issued a file number on this yet. We will certainly follow up with that. So with that, I will pass it back over to you. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that the board or any members of the public might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack Rabbit.
Mr. Chairman, now we're going to treat, this is Lot 2. We're going to discuss Lot 1 and then we're going to vote on them separately. Is that what we're doing?
Well, we're not going to vote on anything tonight, Jack, because
No, but you're right. Excuse me. Yeah. I'd be interested to know what to do.
We would ultimately, if we're treating them together, we would ultimately need two motions because we did file two separate applications and are requesting two separate order of conditions. So I do appreciate that comment.
Anything else, Jack?
No, Mr. Chairman, went on the sidewalk. I had no questions with regard to the second lot, the further back lot. I do have just one quick question on the first lot.
Then ask it.
Okay, there's a wall that's running along the wetland area. Is the intention to leave that wall?
I do believe so. Of course, anything within 30 feet will be maintained.
Right. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah. I do apologize. We inherited this project from another engineering firm, and so if that information isn't on the plan, I apologize for that. Is it very close to the wetland?
It's right. It looks like it's right on the 30-foot mark.
Okay. So our intention is to keep everything within 30, no disturbance whatsoever within 30 feet. So provided it's within that zone, it will be safe.
It's my opinion, I was on the sidewalk also, that it's outside of the, well, it's on the no disturb side of the proposed limit of work. So
So the answer then would be yes, we're proposing to preserve it. It does get tight. It does get tight for us, as you can probably see from the plan. It's there's not a lot of extra real estate by the time you construct the septic system, driveway, and house on the property. So we are, and that's why we're proposing to grade up to that 30-foot as allowed by the bylaw, whereas a lot of other times we would try to certainly always look to try to minimize impacts within the buffer zone at large. But in this case, that's why we're proposing it. But I do have a question. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, if I could also make a comment that if you come across any good-sized boulders, you might continue from where that wall ends up along to the edge of the property to continue to maintain that 30-foot as a demarcation line. And that way, future owners won't decide, oh, I can mow right down to the water line.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, can you let Richard in? He's in the waiting room.
Oh, thank
Sorry.
you so much. I would note for the record that they had told me they were going to eliminate the waiting room this year, and they didn't. Katie, I'm going to call on Katie Childs.
Okay, I just had a quick question. I was not able to make it on the site walk, but what are the conditions on site? And going along with that, would there be trees being cut?
Thanks for that question. It's mainly field.
It's mainly, I wouldn't call it lawn, but it's mowed for sure. I think on lot 1, we may have a little bit of vegetation clearing. But primarily, most of this is in areas that have already been cleared and are already maintained as lawn, not lawn, but field, I call it.
It's all previously disturbed area that looks like it's mowed or hayed or something's done to it to maintain, a short grass situation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Katie, you know where the cemetery is over on Page Street?
Yeah, I haven't been by there in a while, but yeah.
Right. So these 2 lots are basically, you turn onto Page Street, you've got the little farmhouse with the alpacas.
Yep.
Then you've got that wetland that goes by there on the right-hand side. And then right between that and the cemetery, you've got a cleared lot. That's where these 2 lots are located.
Okay.
So you might have a couple of those large trees that are in the middle that might come down, but the remainder is grass, and the houses are slated to go in those grassed areas right there.
Perfect.
Greg, I would ask that between now and next 2 weeks from now, you take and you identify on the plan the trees that are coming down. I believe that you are going to have to take at least one tree down, one of the 2 big existing trees down, because it's going to be in the middle of the house. And also, if you take and you look over at by the wood line, there was a big triple stem white pine that was dead as a doornail, and I'm assuming that the landowner's going to want to cut that down.
Okay.
And I believe there was also a large white pine that would loom over the house, and we were assuming that you were going to cut that down, but it wasn't shown on the plan. And in the future, Greg, if you're going to send us something like this, we'd appreciate it if you would stake the house out before the site visit.
Okay, I apologize for that. I didn't realize, I guess I wasn't, I should have known that you were going to do a site visit, but I didn't have that on my radar, but I do apologize for that.
That's for future reference.
Understood.
We were able to figure out where the houses were going to go using the big trees as reference points. But I would ask that between now and 2 weeks from now, you add that information to the plans.
Absolutely.
And resubmit them. Are there any other comments from commissioners? Greg, I tell you the same thing I tell everybody that has an NOI, is that we suggest that if you take a PDF of your canceled check and send it to Denise Childs to try to move along the issuance of a DEP number.
Yeah, we'll follow up with her. I hate bothering her, but usually when I do, she turns the number over. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr.
Well, I appreciate it because I don't want to have to continue it again. That's how we get agendas with 18 hearings on them. So
yeah, I understand. So we'll try to be ready to go for you in 2 weeks.
Thank you so much. I'm looking for a motion to continue lot 1 to December 16th.
Mr. Chairman, there might be an abutter present.
Sure. Thank you so much for pointing. Are there any comments from members of the public? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to continue to December 16th, lot 1, 50 Page Street.
So moved.
So do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Rich Birch. Tell me he's muted.
He's muted.
Oh, gee. Well, I got to find him now. Oh, here he is, all the way down the bottom. Rich Birch.
Aye.
Ken Jones.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to continue lot 2, 50 Page Street to December 16th.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second? Somebody second it. Excellent. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Carl Luck,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Greg.
you, thank you, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All righty.
Greg, I'm going to email you a continuance form for both lots. If you could just
Absolutely.
sign them and scan them and send them back to me.
Happy to do that, Matt. No problem.
All right, thank you.
Or tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be tomorrow.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Yep.
Continued pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination by George Yap for work at 28 Oak Ridge Road will be held. Work entails the removal of a triple-stemmed oak and rebuilding of a shed. I know Mr. Yap was here. I saw him earlier. Now I don't see him.
He's down the bottom on the list. He's third from
Oh, yeah, I
the
see him.
bottom.
Mr. Yap, I've asked you to unmute yourself. All right.
I am here.
And I'm going to stop sharing the screen. All right. And let's call up Mr. Yap's plan. I'll call up Mr. Yap's plan. This is Oak Ridge. And I would just, whoop. Let's rotate this thing. Rotate. Now let's share the screen. I would just, looking at this diagram, the tree to be removed is outside the 30-foot no disturbance zone, and it's also outside the 50-foot no disturbance zone. And so I would just note that no replacement is required by our regulation because our regulations are for replacement of trees removed within the 30-foot no disturbance zone. Mr. Yap, what do you have to say?
I just wanted to draw it out so you guys could see. I know you didn't make it out to propose second walk, which is fine. I came up with some proposed trees. If you just drop it down, Bob, just a little bit, you can see up top, I made a little key for what the trees are, just to kind of give some suggestions and a good starting point for replacement. But those are all suggested replacements, which I would do anyway if asked, or if not asked, I could do as well. You know, we would need something to dress the yard up anyways. But they're all trees, no bushes at this point, and so the commission would like to see some replacements. Those are my suggested areas and replacements.
Thank you so much, Jack Rabbit.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Yap, made very nice job. I love the way you put the trees such that they're going to help hold up that essentially that area that's falling off real fast in the front of your yard. Nice
Yes.
job. I really I like, and the collection was very, very nicely done. My question would be, hey, that 30-foot mark, is that where the water is currently with the drawdown, or is that?
That's at the edge of the normal shoreline.
At the edge.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
As labeled on the diagram, Jack, see where it says high water?
Right. Okay. I couldn't see that, Bob. I did
All
see
right.
it earlier because I love the trees. And the other question is, are you putting a tree too close to your septic field?
I know it's deceiving. That one might be a little too close to the D that's right there. And that B up, that's really a hill up behind that where the ABCA is.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that. That's why I kind of drew that septic area in, because I want to stay as far away from that as I possibly can.
Good move. Good move. Mr. Chairman, I totally support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? I would note that at the last hearing, it was represented to the applicant that he had to replace the trees, but that's not the case. And so I'd like to hear a little more discussion about that now that we understand that it's not a requirement of our regulations.
I guess if he wants, at this point, if he wants to put the trees in, then that's awesome. But if he doesn't, then he doesn't have to.
Is there any other, Carlock?
I just wanted to comment that appreciate this drawing. Got enough detail. It locates everything. And I do appreciate that the plantings required or not. Appreciate the trying to get the lot more beautified, and there is quite a steep step back there, so some trees would be quite helpful. So I appreciate everything the applicant's done and support.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions from commissioners? Is there any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, I'm looking, well, what I'm looking for, I don't know what I'll get. What I'm looking for is a motion for this is an RDA, correct?
Yes.
This is an yeah.
Yep.
I'm looking for a motion for a negative determination with the caveat that the applicant does the tree replacements at his own discretion.
I would make that a motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor, roll call vote. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Bush,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Carl Luck,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeffrey Viviano.
Aye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yap. You have any questions?
No, thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
All right, take care.
Have a good
The
evening.
Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a request for determination by Gary Kroll for work at 398 Sunset Lane for the replacement of a dock. I know I saw Mr. Kroll. Let's get rid of this first of all.
He's raising his hand.
Yeah, and I'll get to him in just a second. I see.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I need to recuse myself from this as I am in a butter.
Okay. So noted. Mr. Kroll, I've just asked you to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me
Mr.
now?
Kroll.
I assume you
All
can
right,
hear me?
let me call up your let me try and call up your plan.
Okay.
It's going to take me a minute.
There are 4 exhibit pages as part of it.
Yeah,
That would be.
I made the mistake of shutting down my Google Drive application, so now I have to go all the way back in. And this is 398 Sunset. All right, so let me share this page. So this shows the location is at the end of Sunset Lane, right?
Yeah, the home is at the far end of Sunset Lane,
Yeah.
directly across from the channel from Shady Point.
And this shows the locations of the docks. There's a dock here and there's a dock here.
Yep, so the dock with the yellow line, the second one you noted.
Okay.
The one that we're
And here's
looking
a
to.
picture.
Yep,
And here's another picture.
yep.
What makes you think this dock needs to be replaced?
Looks in great shape to me.
And here is a sideways pic, and here's a picture of what you're proposing.
Correct. It would be more of a squared end instead of a V-hole end because we have a pontoon, but it'd be almost exactly looking like that.
There any comments or questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Jack Rabbit.
Thank you, sir. I noticed that I don't believe there was concrete walkway going down on that dock.
No, it's flush with the seawall.
It is flush with the seawall. So does this
Yep.
exist right now, that concrete walkway?
No, this is a picture of an example,
Oh,
dock.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a Google image, just an example of what will go back.
Okay, okay. And so
If you
there's
go
no-
to the second page, you can see where the wall is flush with the seawall.
Okay, and there's no intention to change the walkway down or increase the impervious area at all?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I think you go up one more. Right there. You can see right at the corner, that's where the seawall is.
All right,
So-
right over here.
Yeah, it's flush with the seawall right there.
Okay.
And it's all grass right there, and it'll maintain grass.
And is it grass over here, or is this a drawdown over here?
That's all drawdown that you, so this was all taken during the drawdown, I think, last year.
Okay.
But everything to the right of that picture is all grass.
Okay, and so this is lake bottom here, and the grass would be off the screen to the right.
Correct.
Thank you so much. Other questions or comments from commissioners? Questions or comments from members of the public? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for a negative determination.
Mr. Chairman, quick question. This is being removed during the drawdown, during this next month or so, or?
Correct, hopefully. If it doesn't get done by March, it'll have to be next year.
Oh, gosh.
But yes, it'll be, the removal will be done during the drawdown.
Hurry up.
I know.
Well, then make a motion, Jack.
Yes.
And we're gonna get them to do a further drawdown.
And give a negative determination.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Abstained.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Carl.
you.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Kroll. You have any questions?
No, just follow up with Matt with any paperwork that's necessary or, okay. Thank you.
So much.
Take care now.
Continued pursuant to the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Municipal, and yeah, I'm gonna start again. Continued. Pursuant to the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination at 1168 rear Mass Ave by M2 Trust for the demolition of an existing single-family home and shed. Matt, do we have anybody here for that? I don't see anybody.
Well, there should be. I
I
know.
think Dustin Powell is on down at the bottom.
Oh, I see him. Aha, I'm gonna ask him to unmute himself.
Hello?
Hi, Dustin.
For a second.
Let me call up your plan. Let's see, this is 1168 Mass Ave rear. All right, let's share the screen. You guys see that okay? All righty then. Dustin, talk to us.
So we're looking to take down an existing house and barn. They're falling apart, so we're looking to take them down for safety reasons. We have no plans for the property after. We're just looking to put loam over them and seed them. And,
Dustin, can you either turn up your mic or speak a little closer?
oh yeah. Can you hear me now?
Better. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're looking to take down an existing house and barn. We have no plans for the property after. The structures are falling apart, so we're looking to take them down for safety reasons. We're looking to spread loam on them after and then seed them, and that's it.
Are there any questions or comments from commissioners?
I think at the last meeting, we were looking just for, whether or not they were going to take the big barn down and where the wetlands were. And to me, it looks like they got everything on the plans for erosion control for both structures.
Do that. Jack Rabbit.
Chairman, thank you. I would like to read a note I
Hey,
received.
Jack, can we just say that we have a note from a butter in favor of this plan?
Absolutely in favor of it and wholeheartedly appreciates the work that they've done.
And it was Jeffrey Ray Michaels.
Michael Ray Jeffries.
Thank you. Michael Ray Jeffries wrote a letter in favor in supporting it, and we'll skip reading the letter.
And he did apologize for not being able to make it.
All right. Thank you very much, Jack.
Thank you.
There are any other comments or questions from commissioners? There any questions or comments from members of the public? I'm looking for a motion for a negative determination.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
Thank you so much. You're all set, Dustin. All right, you muted yourself, but we're going to say goodnight.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. All right, let's stop sharing the screen. Let's go on to our next public hearing. Continued pursuant to the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public meeting on a request for determination by Dan Dugas for work at 60 South Row Road. The work is for the removal of trees for the placement of a solar energy system within the buffer zone. Mr. Dugas, thank you for hanging in there. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Am I unmuted now?
You are.
Oh, boy. Yes.
Let me find your, this is 60 South Row.
Yep.
What am I looking here for here, Matt? Is this the Dugas tree plan, October 2020?
Let me take a look at the cloud. There should be a file that says updated plan. Hold on a second.
And it probably is, but
Yeah, I believe I have to put in a couple of trees too.
Yeah, Dugas tree plan, October 2020.
Yeah. All right. So let's share that screen. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Dugas, talk to us.
Okay, I have 4 trees that need to be taken down right here. They're close to the water, so that's why I've put in the request. I believe I can plant some other trees over by where the shed is on the far side where it says hickory.
You know, over in this area here?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to plant them out here. That's in the water.
Can't do that.
Okay. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, if just to elucidate a little bit, when we did the site visit, there was concern with regard to moving the trees that were along the water line. However, there wasn't a very steep embankment. As our administrator, Matt, pointed out, if we were to take those trees and put them on the other side by the shed, they would actually provide greater value to the lake as adding shade. Would that be correct, Matt?
And that's
Yeah, as a
why-
matter of fact, you must have read my mind, Jack, even though it's kind of
No, I
slim
listened
pickings
to
in
you.
here.
I listened to you. It was a while.
So what
back.
I'm saying, what I was about to say is, if I would recommend, if you guys decide to approve this tonight and give it a negative, I would recommend that you would make in your motion that the trees be planted along the shoreline between the area on the plan marked shed and where it's marked 350 elevation by the peninsula.
Right.
I wouldn't go closer to the house.
No. No, I have, there was a tree here a long time ago. It was a weeping willow and it got hit by lightning. It did come down and it rotted away. I kind of wanted to I want to put another tree right there, if not a weeping willow, something similar, strong, tall, right there.
Yeah, and the other reason why I say keep them away from the house, number one, the shoreline value would be enhanced over between the shed and the 350. The other thing is if he plants tall growing trees near his house, he's got a solar rooftop system that's being installed.
Right.
Anything else, Jack?
No, it seems like a very reasonable exchange, even though it's contrary to what we normally do.
Carl,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just is this drawing that we're looking at, is this oriented north is up and east and west? I
No.
can't remember the orientation of
No.
the what.
North and north will be sort of toward the upper left-hand corner.
That's correct.
Okay, sort of over towards 10 o'clock or something, 10:30, whatever. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you scroll, you can see it. There you
Ah,
go.
look at that. See?
Thank you very much. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So the other question along, I agree with everything was said about the replanting of the trees. The only question is exactly where and what and how many. What are the diameters of the 4 trees that are coming down?
It's, I would say, I don't really know, but one in front of the house that's rotted, it's got a lot of rot in it. That's about 20 inches around, maybe less. It's 15 and 20. And the other one over by the water's edge, that's kind of narrow. It's about 5 inches around, 6 inches. And there's a bigger one that's about 25 inches around. And that's right where the 22 plus is. If you can see that near the house.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this opportunity to state my opinion here. I know our regulations talk about 2 for 1 with certain diameters and stuff like that. This is a very, very small lot. I don't see, if we ask them to plant more than 4 trees, they're just going to start shading each other out. It's
I
my
agree.
personal opinion that it's ridiculous to ask them to plant more than 4 trees. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Carl.
You're done, Bob?
Yep.
Okay, what the regulation is the regulation, and they're clearly within 30 feet. It is a small lot, but clearly there are 4 substantial trees there now. So I guess I'd like to see what the planting plan is. It sounds like, and I didn't capture all the trees, but up to 20 inches, it's 2 to 1. Sound like there's one that's less than 8, so that's only 1 for 1. I certainly wouldn't want to see less than 4, but it looks like when you go through the math, it might be more like 6. And if you look at that whole area that Matt indicated between the shed and the point, I would think you probably could fit 4 to 6. We're not talking big trees on day one, and they may not all survive for 50 years. So I don't know that being so big, they're going to interfere with each other for quite a while. So I'm not seeing a problem with 4 to 6, trees that are, an inch 2 diameter, which is what we're really talking about, and then take the yield. So I'd like to see the regulation complied with the trees located along the area that Matt indicated.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I'd like to say that I have planted 5 trees, actually. In the front of the property, you see where the 9800 is, 9800. closer to this side because the septic system is directly in front of the house where the road is, where the 22 plus or minus and 140 is, like in that area. That's where my septic system is. So to the right of that, I have planted 4 trees right along the front, a 5th tree over by this where the 40 is to my next door lot. There's 1 tree I planted there. They're all fruit trees. I don't know if that makes a difference.
And sir, aren't there existing trees out from where it says shed and cabin, up a tree like where it says shed in the 350 mark that Matt was talking about? Aren't there existing trees there already?
There are existing trees. I have
That's
2
what I thought.
50-foot trees right in front of the, where the 350 mark and the cabin is. There's 2 50-foot pine trees. And there's several other small trees. There's birch, a lot of birch trees in that area too.
It's already a fairly treed lot. It's not
That's correct.
It's not like it's,
It's unfortunate that shown on the plan because I'm not, it's hard to tell that looking at this plan how treated it is. The trees that were mentioned that were planted up, in the front and corner of the lot, from a shade point of view, which is not the only thing relative to trees, but from a shade point of view, are really not. And the location that Matt talked about and Jack do benefit the lake from the shade point of view. So.
I'm gonna call on Carl. Anything else?
No, just that I'd like to see how many and where they're going to go.
Thank you, Carl. I'm gonna call on Ken Jones.
I just want to say, I don't think on a treed lot, I don't think it's feasible for us to ask an applicant on an RDA to show where all of the trees are. It's a treed lot. I mean, we can't have them show where all the trees are. And I think that, to the point of replacement, I think 1-for-1 in this instance would be completely sufficient. And if we require an exemption to our bylaw for this specific instance, I would be in favor of that for a 1-to-1 replacement for the 4 trees that the applicant is requesting to take down.
We haven't heard from Jeff Viviano yet.
Yeah, I was on the site walk myself, and it is a very wooded lot, small lot. With the restrictions where the septic system is, I think a 1-for-1 ratio would be well within reason here, and I would be in favor of that as well.
Thank you, Jeff. Back to
Bob, if I may, I don't mean to interrupt, but if I may, if you pulled up the, if you go to the Oliver database and pulled up the ortho photo, the 2019 ortho photo has a real good view of the house and the existing tree line.
Okay, now we're going to go back to Jack while I'm looking for that.
Yeah. Mr. It's my impression that you will not be digging these trees out. You'll essentially be cutting them to the level of the soil.
Yeah, pretty much. I would like to have a stump grinder come in and bring them down below the dirt line.
Sure, that'd be fine, but you're not pulling them out or anything.
No.
You're not distributing them back. Okay, I'm fine. Thank you. Should we compromise on 5? We get 6 on one side and 4 on the other. Go to the middle.
Oh, you're funny, Jack. I'm going to lower your hand.
Thank you, Bob.
Now we're going to stop share. We're going to do a new share. And now we're going to take, you guys see this now?
Not yet.
No.
See it yet?
No.
Oh.
Ah, well, then I did not successfully share the screen.
It happens.
Now can you see it?
Here it is.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of these wetlands first of all. How come it's showing? I haven't got wetlands checked. I don't understand why it's doing that.
Maybe you just have that highlighted.
It's on the property map. It's the water bodies on the property map that you have to unselect.
See, and I don't, when I look at over here, Ken, I don't see it.
If you go to property map on the, where it's checked, click on the plus. Nope, down in the menu,
Yeah.
right there. Click on the plus. And then go down to the,
Ken, you are a genius. Thank you.
I wouldn't go that far.
Wow, but you just taught me something I didn't know.
There you go.
All right, so here you can see the pines out.
Yep.
Here you can see there's some kind of deciduous tree. This is taken in the winter. There's another deciduous tree there. There's a deciduous tree there. The trees that are being taken down, if I remember rightly,
Yep.
are these here and these right here.
That's staying there where your cursor is. That's staying there.
That's staying there. So the
Yeah.
trees being taken down are mostly over here. and I
Yes.
believe there's one like right there.
Might be.
And
I
then,
think that's a little further than it is.
yeah. And then there's existing trees along here. You can see there's existing pines and stuff.
Yeah, as you see, the pines are over at the 350 to the right, up to the point, and just to the left, closer to the road, there's an open space right there. I know I could fit 2 good-sized trees in there.
Where, here?
No, I can't put anything there. That's too close to the septic tank.
Okay. So tell me where to go.
All right, right about where your cursor is right now, go up a little bit more.
Yeah.
All right, that's the shed right there. I can put 2 of them in that area,
Yeah.
you know, about 4 feet apart. That sounds like the best place for them.
Okay.
If I have to plant another one, I think maybe behind the house. I hate to get too close because I seen them doing all that work when they were putting the septic system in. I don't know how close I can go there. You can't see my cursor, correct?
No, we can't.
Okay. All right, right directly in front of my house where the 140 is.
Yeah.
My septic system goes from the whole front of that. That's the front of my property, the whole front there.
Yeah.
And the tank, the holding tank is right when you get to the left, close to the water.
Yeah.
That is where the holding tank actually is.
Okay.
I don't know how close I can go to that. I would have to have somebody who knows a little bit about that stuff tell me how close I can get to that. I'm not a professional in trees, so.
You know, I'm beginning to think from my personal point of view that 4 trees is too many.
No.
So how about 2 trees and some shrubs where the trees are being taken down?
Oh, yeah, that sounds great.
Is there any other comments or questions from commissioners? Do we have any comments or questions from members of the public? I'm looking for a motion with the stipulation that, well, I'm looking for a motion. Jeff, you got a motion?
I make a motion the Dugas tree plan is approved. With the stipulation 2 trees be planted in between the shed and the cabin and 3 shrubs where the trees are being taken out.
Okay.
That's for a motion for a negative determination. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. There any further discussion? Roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself. Thank you so much for hanging in here till the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff.
All right.
Thank everybody there.
Jeff, that was a good suggestion. Good job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and Dan?
Yeah.
Dan, welcome to Zoom.
Thanks.
Good job.
It
You
was
did
tough,
great.
but I got there. It's a little bit out of my character to be doing stuff with a computer and all this. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Continued pursuant to the Tuna Lunenburg Wetlands Protection Municipal Bylaw, public hearing on a notice of intent by Curtis Nikitas for work at 232 Burridge Street. The work is for grading and construction of a stone wall within the buffer zone. Matthew.
Mr. Chairman, they still don't have a DEP number. And when I was talking to Mr. Oldfield about this, the same as in the others that don't have the DEP number. If you noted, they weren't on the database either. So we don't know what's going on at DEP. It could simply be that they're overloaded. He did, however, he sent me a copy. He paid his fee, and it was paid over on their DEP web portal, and the web portal automatically generates a receipt. They should have gotten the receipt. So what he did was he PDF'd the receipt. He emailed me a copy, and he emailed a copy to Denise Child to see if it gets it moving. He did, however, if you look on the cloud, give an updated plan. That is on the cloud for you guys to review. It's on tonight's meeting folder. You guys can review it at your leisure for the next meeting. Hopefully he'll have his number.
All right. I'm looking for a motion to continue.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call vote.
Do we
Further
have
discussion?
a date? Do we have a date?
Yes, a motion to continue to December 16th. That's
Yes,
what Ken said.
that's what I said.
Yeah, okay, good, man. Thank you.
All right.
And I do have a continuance form from him on file.
Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Child,
Aye.
Carl Luck,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. Last but not least, continue pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Jeff LaPierre for work at 1672 Mass Ave will be held. Work proposed, rebuild of an existing shed, grading of existing lawn, repair of retaining wall, and removal of a tree, and the repaving of a driveway with gravel. What's the story with this application, Matt?
Well, he was the one, if you recall, he's having survey work done. David Ross and Associates, Brandon Ducharme is in the middle of redrawing his plans. I haven't gotten the submittal yet. I'm hopeful that I'll have it shortly, but I haven't heard anything back from Brandon in a little while. So it's going to have to be continued again.
All right, I'm looking for the motion to continue.
Motion to continue 672 Mass Ave to the December 16th meeting.
Thank you, Jeff. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Ken Jones,
Aye.
Rich Birch,
Aye.
Katie Childs,
Aye.
Carl Luck,
Aye.
Jack Rabbit,
Aye.
Jeff Viviano,
Aye.
and I for myself. That's it for public hearings.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just a reminder about 25 Pearl.
Oh, thank you so much. Pursuant to Mass General Law, is that, it's an RDA, right? Matt,
25 Pearl is an RDA.
it's an RDA to do what?
Hold on a second, let me look it up.
It's not on our agenda, but he filled out a continuance form and it was supposed to be on the agenda and we're going to continue it to the.
Actually, that was a notice of intent. That was the one over by the water where we asked them to move the septic system, examine moving the septic system, and he had that lean-to addition. And we were looking to have him maybe move the pavement back because they wanted to square off the pavement.
Oh, yeah.
I did speak to David Ross and Associates today, as a matter of fact, and yesterday, because they weren't ready with their plan. They did fill out a continuous form to December 16th. The biggest problem with that one with them is they're just trying to figure out different configurations. They have come up with a configuration to move the tight tank, but the remainder of it they're not ready with yet. So they still have items to go. They're supposed to call me early next week to discuss the items that you guys wanted and how they're going to address it.
And what's the name of the applicant there, Matt?
That was Fournier.
Fournier. What's Mr. Fournier's first name?
John, I believe. John Fournier.
Pursuant to the town of Lunenburg, pursuant to the town of Lunenburg municipal bylaws. No, that's not what I want to say. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, in the town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by John Fournier for work at 25 Pearl will be held. Work proposed is the construction of a shed, rebuilding of a garage, and other associated work. I'm looking for a motion to continue to December 16th.
Can we open it if it's not listed on the,
We're not going to open it. We're going to continue it.
can we take a vote on it if it's not on the agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you continued it to a date and time certain, which was tonight.
Okay.
Still looking for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, thank you, Jeff. All right. Hearing no further discussion, we're gonna have a roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Sure, I guess.
I love your enthusiasm. Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself. Thank you for that reminder, Matt. Enforcement. What can you tell us about enforcement?
Okay, let me just pull up the agenda. Okay, so 90 Ruth Street, you guys had asked him to get in touch with me to file a request for determination for the raking out of the sand. I have not heard from this gentleman since he met with you guys last. So I sent out a reminder letter to him this afternoon that I needed to hear from him. I believe the date I gave him was to the beginning of the week after to get the documents to me.
Fire Road, they're filing an NOI. How about 9 Valley Road? You're working on the NOI. 232 Burridge, we just continued. And what's going on at 7088 Page Street?
I've turned over the original enforcement order that was not picked up by certified mail to the police department. It's going to be hand served.
Okay, and please remind us what the violation was at 788 Page?
Tree removal within the 30-foot no-touch zone.
Thank you so much. There is no business, new business, old business, update on the trails grant. I'm working on I've got draft maps for all 10 Lunenburg parcels with trails on them from MRPC. I'm going to add to them, there's a conservation land, I forget the name of it, that's over by Flat Hill Road, that has a snowmobile trail across it. I'm going to add that also to the list because it's conservation land with a trail on it. I'm going to designate colors to the various trails of 5 different colors that match the colors of the trail markers. And then I'm hoping to have the website created and post those draft maps on the website, for public comment and input. And after a period of public comment and input of about a month or two, then actually send the maps out, have MRPC create the maps so we can create the You Are Here trail maps. Jack, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, you went so fast, Mr. Chairman. You're so efficient. I didn't get a chance to get mine up. Hey, just talking to the agent, I just have an inquiry with regard to Lake Shirley, the embankments, these little developments that are happening. And additionally, when I had a chance to get out and look, we're on the back end of the Mulpus, and essentially there are no leaves. And I'm discovered that we have another little encampment in the middle of that whole estuary area. And I'm suggesting that perhaps we get together and take a ride and hear what they're going on. And the last piece was on the Oak Ridge Drive when we did the site visit. That was a 22 Oak Ridge Drive. We had noted that there was a brand new, totally paved over area. And I don't recall ever seeing anybody coming in for that. I was actually able to go back and find a picture in which it showed that entire area unpaved. And I don't know how far it goes, but there wasn't a lot of room left for impervious surfaces. And I'm just wondering if we could take a look at that and, you know, do a little bit of research to see if in fact they did file, but I don't believe I ever saw anything on that one.
Yeah, well, the other thing I got to check into is whether or not there was a driveway permit.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see one on record.
Okay, yeah, and the picture I have is 10 years old. I had to go back to when the last time it was sold to get a shot at the back lot. And yeah, it's totally pervious. Now it's impervious.
Yeah, I didn't see one on the computer records. I got to go back to the building inspector's files and check the manual records because the old ones aren't archived.
Yeah, I don't mind taking a ride if you want company. Oh, wait a second, we got to take 2 cars. The hell with it, go by yourself.
Okay.
Hey, Jack.
Yeah,
Jack.
that's enough. I'll lower my hand.
No, Jack.
Yeah.
What were you talking about? Something about there was an encampment on the Mulfus or something? You
Yeah,
lost me
they're
there.
right across actually from the O'Brien property that we've been like. You look back and it looks like somebody's been building out. They had a table, they had umbrellas and a couple of chairs, and it looked like somebody had built something out to it. In fact, I'll try and go find a picture I took a while back of what it is. But yeah, there's one down there.
So this would be over like where the state cop's house is?
I don't.
I would be at the end of Brookview Terrace.
Brookview Terrace on the right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's been there for a while, if my recollection is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Ken. That has been there for a while.
Yeah, I
Like
think last
lot of
summer it looked like there was if you could see through the trees maybe and the umbrella was open, but now it's pretty clear.
All right, thank you, Jack. Is there anything else under enforcement? There is no new business. I was given an update in the Trails Grant, certificate of compliance. Has Paul Gogan applied for a certificate of compliance, Matt?
Yes, he has, and I've got a list based on Carl's site inspection of items that he has concerns about. Just lightly reviewing the list today, I can understand where he's coming from. I've spoken to Mr. Gogan and told him that I need to go out on site. I plan on having his engineer come along to review the deficiencies and to speak with the engineer about how they're going to be addressed.
All right, thank you. I would ask that we not include it on the agenda in the future until we're prepared to act on it.
Will do.
Go ahead, Matt.
I said will do.
Okay, thank you. Carl.
Yeah, I had one. I'll go back to on the enforcements. Or maybe start there. I didn't jump in quick enough when you said nothing more enforcements. Sort of to the point that that Jack was talking about. I'd like to maybe in a future meeting have a discussion on a process for logging, documenting, and tracking potential violations or questions of violations. There have been quite a few come up, and we don't have a method for tracking them. I know Matt's very busy, which doesn't help keep these things to the surface. But there have been at least 4 or 5 that have been mentioned over the last few months, and they're not documented anywhere. If Jack, myself, or someone else doesn't remember to bring them back up, they just kind of get lost. And there's one of them that was a perfect example that Jack and I noticed and brought up a few meetings ago out on Fire Road 16, where there was filling of a pole. Whether it's I don't know what the technical term is for conservation, but Matt had looked at it. confirmed and did report in a meeting that he was having trouble getting hold of Keating, who was doing the filling of this hole. I can report that since then, that hole is almost completely filled now. There's been continuous filling even since Matt looked at it. So it's just an example of if we don't keep these things, on the surface, they just go, and then before you know it, there's no coming back. And people are in process is the time to capture these things, not once they're done or we forget completely. So I would request some discussion on a process for capturing these, and if nothing else, have a list. We don't get anywhere, but I say there's at least 4 or 5, and I would suggest that maybe as a first step, Matt could just document what he remembers or is aware of that isn't on our enforcement list that needs to be investigated, so that we can confirm that we've captured them all, and then get some action plan on those.
Pending investigations list or something? Yeah.
Yeah, so something we're just missing, and there's, as I said, there's 4 or 5 going on right now that are going to fall in cracks if we don't just keep bringing them up, but then we talk about them and we don't ever get anywhere. The other thing on the subject that you're on now, which was the 675, I'm very happy to hear Matt's gone through that list. I would like to, one thing that's always bothers me is staying informed of what's going on. In open meeting law, can get in the way of that. And I would like to make that document public, officially here. Commission can be aware of those. And I believe the correct way to do that will be for me to briefly discuss the key items in that document. Then the document email that I sent Bob and Matt before could be made available to the commissioners or anyone else, including the applicant that is interested. So I would like to go over those key things right now very quickly. There's 8 items. One was discussed briefly, which was the wetland replication area, which does not seem to be in place. Did not see it. There is a photo of the floodplain of the floodplain replication, which is in the middle of that area. So you can see there doesn't seem to be anything around it regarding a wetland application. There's also wetland replication area plantings that were on the approved plan that are not in place. There's a number of trees and shrubs that were supposed to be planted there. There's a floodplain replication. Question the dimensions of this have to be checked. A rough measurement that was made on the site on my site visit indicated that this was a little bit short of the 335 square feet. Although the key thing there to me is not square feet, but is we really need to understand the volume calculations and need to get that confirmed and that is compliant. There's also on the approved plan is a grass access path that's identified, which does not seem to be in place. There's there's no grass path. There's a big disturbed area in that area, but it's much larger than it should be according to the plan, and seems to go into the 30-foot no disturbance area. There's a rain garden on the approved plan. That was an integral part of the mitigation agreements during the hearings. I believe my recollection was specifically to relative to the activities within the riverfront. Although there's some appearance of a structure there, it's not possible to confirm it's been properly designed or implemented. I think the applicant should show preferably the detail on the as-built, what the structure, the subsurface structure is, and discuss why there appears to be no plantings and how it's supposed to function and contribute to the wetlands. There's a question of the understory near the deciduous trees that were on the lake side of the house. The deciduous trees are there and in good shape. But there was supposed to be a number of plantings, understory plantings around those deciduous trees. I distinctly remember that during the hearings, there were discussions on placing those understory plantings so they didn't interfere with the path. And it is on the plan. So, even on the photos that were submitted with a request for a certificate by the engineer, those photos pretty much confirm there are no understory plantings there. There are no plantings on the plan other than those deciduous trees on the as-built plan. This was a key, very key in the reviews and many iterations to show the vegetation. The as-built does not show the presence of most of these plantings. And although it appears most of the plantings are present, they should be included in the as-built so we can verify and for future, not only for future reference. And then finally, I believe that we should require a new signed certificate of substantial complete compliance. We only have one from April when it was clear that the statement was not accurate. There should be a new one submitted clearly after all of these issues have been addressed and presumably have a new as-built, since the as-built does not seem to reflect the actual condition on the ground either. So thank you for bearing with me, but I think with this reading that the documents can now be forwarded. And to save that work, I will forward that email to the commissioners after this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. But to be clear, I'm asking Matt not to put this on the agenda until he thinks it's ready for a vote.
Yep.
That's the way we're going to do it.
Great. I fully agree with that, Bob. That's a great position.
Matt, Peterman, 137 Bird Street, lots 8 and 9. It's my understanding that's some old business we have to clean up tonight.
It's a request for certificate of compliance. You should see it on the cloud.
Oh, let's take a look. I didn't look at that. Peterman, 137 Birch. Look at that. There it is.
We have an order of conditions that was originally filed for in August of 1995 and issued in February of 1996. So the construction of a driveway to accommodate a single-family home. The plan that was originally filed is on here. The order is, it's not like the orders we give out today. These orders were basically thin. I mean, I have no trouble. I mean, it's an old file. I have no problem issuing a certificate of compliance. The house is outlaid the way it's supposed to be. I don't see anything egregious on the property. So I have no issue with issuing a certificate, or at least recommending the issuance of them.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this?
Mr. Chairman, I might just ask that our agent put a written notice in with the file that he observed the site and the site was in compliance. So at some point in the future, if somebody looks into this, they'll know that we did our due diligence to at least make sure that it was completed and there were no issues on site.
Yeah, there's an inspection form that I hand wrote when I was on site that I put in the folder.
Okay, that would just be my request.
Thank you, Rich. Do I have a motion? Oh, Carl has his hand up.
Mr. Chairman, just sort of along the lines of Richard Stewart. So do we have a request with someone's engineer or someone certifying that it is in compliance?
We have a request from the property owner.
So do we need
If
to,
I understand you, Matt, this is from an era when we didn't ask for a certificate of compliance from the engineers?
Well, we didn't have a bylaw boilerplate at that point. We just were going by the state boiler. Let me take another look, see. There's no requirement here for an engineer's plan. Like I said, these particular orders were issued back in the day. They were some of the original improvements that DEP was making on their forms, and I've always found these old forms a little wanting.
okay,
I'm
so
still looking
it's
for a
not,
motion
it's
to
not
approve.
required, then I understand.
Which I think is one of the reasons why Rich wanted the note. And that's actually one of the reasons why I ensured to make the site inspection report. Because I totally understand where he's coming from and totally agree with it. There should be, at least some type of a note on file that we reviewed it. So I went out and I looked at the site, and they've done a really nice job maintaining the property. There's been no intrusion into the wetlands. Looks pretty much like it has.
Still looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 137 Burge Street.
Thank you so much. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Katie. Hearing no further discussion, we'll have a roll call vote. Ken Jones. Ken Jones is muted. Let's see.
I had a dog barking.
I was going to say, was your dog barking again?
Yep.
Thank you, Ken. Rich Birsch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself. Extension permits none. Committee reports. I don't hear any. Administrative determination, 106 Sandy Cove Road, 1 tree 50 feet from edge of wetlands. Tell us about this, Matt.
It's actually on the cloud. There's a picture of the tree on the cloud.
Oh, there is. That's wonderful. Oh, 6 Sandy Cove. What's going on with this tree?
Well, essentially, the tree's outlived its lifespan. It's got some compromised cracks in it. The landowner wants to take the tree down, and he is willing to replant a smaller tree like a Japanese maple in its place. When I did the tape measurement on site, when I went to look at the tree, it was a little under 50 feet, like 49 feet, 10 inches away from the edge of wetland.
And when I look at this picture, Matt,
It's not, you didn't screen share it.
Oh, I'll do that now. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
When I look at this picture, is it the big white pine in the tree? In the picture, rather?
No, that is an oak tree.
Well, that's an oak tree.
Yep.
Oh, I thought this branch looked like it was coming from that tree.
That's behind. That's behind that tree. It's not that tree. It's the maple tree that's out in front. That pine tree is actually farther back on the lot. The picture's a little deceiving because I took it at an angle.
So is it this like fork tree here?
That's actually just a couple of the offspring of the descendant of that tree. It's offspring of that tree.
So are they coming out too?
Yeah.
But the white pine is staying?
The white pine isn't close to the house. It's the tree it's the maple tree that is.
I mean, in that picture, it literally looks like that forked maple tree is like inches away from that pine tree.
Yeah, I know. Again, it's a little deceiving because of the way I took the picture.
Okay.
I wanted to capture the whole tree, so I took it at an angle.
Until Adams has nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
That is for sure.
Man, that isn't color. Answer just black and white.
All right. If it's those two forked trees, then I would say let them do it.
So is that a motion, Ken?
That is a motion.
Thank you, Ken. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, a roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, before we vote, I'm still puzzled here about the picture. This wide tree, which appears to be in front of the, is not coming down, right? That tree is not coming down that the arrow's on?
That's right.
No, the big tree is coming down.
The white pine, the big tree in the picture is a white pine.
Let me take a look at this again. Let me take a look at this.
Because there's no doubt that picture is a white pine tree.
Right.
Okay, so the big trunk is not coming down.
No, the big trunk is coming down.
The pine's coming down then.
Take a look at these other. I've got other photos here on my other computer.
Oh. Maybe
Okay. Let me take a look at my notes. Okay, I apologize. You're right. There are several white pine trees in the back that he's not proposing to take down. That is a white pine tree in the front. There are two little offshoots of another like oak tree that you see in the front of that. And those are going to have to come out as a result, which is what I have in my notes.
So is this pine tree the one that's coming down?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's the pine tree that's coming down, and as a consequence, these two little things there have to come down.
Yep. Sorry, I misread my notes.
Okay, and so we had a motion. Carl then said he was still, Carl, did we address your concerns, or are you ready for us to continue?
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody knows that they're voting on the big trunk, not the little thing.
No, they're voting
That's
on
all.
both.
Now they're voting on both.
Yeah, but yeah, the little things are coming too, but the big trunk is coming.
All right.
And again, he has, that's where the confusion was. I was reading the notes real quick. He has agreed to replant like a Japanese maple in that spot. There's no shade value to the wetland in that area, or it's too far away from it. And it's actually closer to the road. So the shade value going to the wetland is actually the trees in the back of his lot and the lots in between.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So now roll call vote. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And I for myself. Open space and trail use issues. Anybody have any questions there?
Mr. Chairman, there has been, anecdotally a few reports of ATVs, a lot of ATVs on the Lane property and the large town forest. So if we can get some of those ATV signs up, that would be awesome. And if you need a hand, I will be willing to help.
I got 50 of them in the back of my car. I'd be happy to drop them off at the fire department.
All right. Well, maybe we can have a discussion about where we want to put some of them up, but I'll certainly be willing to put some of them up.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah, I heard the same thing. I went out and I walked parts of the Lane property, and you can see where there's ATV, you can see tracks.
Yeah.
Well, three times in the last 5 months, I've stopped usually dirt bikers, but once ATVers out there, introduced myself as the chairman and told them they weren't allowed and pretended like I was taking pictures, but I'm not quick enough to get my phone out and actually take pictures because they go too fast. So I would say, if, for those of you who, I was surprised there was no comment on anything in the regulation, in the land use policy other than hunting. You know, those, it sounds like we have at least 3 members are interested in permitting hunting in at least some lands. And so I would say it's incumbent upon you to come in with concrete proposals and concrete language. You know, and we had a 4th member, you know, who was open to considering it. You know, I would ask that you take and, you know, come to the next meeting, you know, with concrete proposals for the other members to consider. I'll go through, you know, Michael Ray, I thought had some good comments toward the end there about the structure of the regulations. I'll certainly go through everything the town attorney recommended, and we'll have, and hope everyone has a chance to review all that stuff before the next meeting. And I hope, looks like we probably only will have like 4 or 5 hearings at the next meeting. And so I'm hoping that the next meeting we can both have a prolonged, longer discussion about land use policy, and also talk about forest harvesting at the next meeting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just a reminder, you guys had scheduled to do the discussion on the Reno and the Hollis Road land stewardship cutting proposals at this meeting. You had set that time a couple of meetings ago.
I'm also thinking we may want to cancel our first meeting in January. Just because the Ledger doesn't advertise, doesn't publish there for, I think, 2 weeks in a row. But we'll see where we are. We'll see where we are on December 16th. You know, at our next meeting, and we'll probably make a decision at that time. Is there anything else? Any public comment from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman.
Carl.
Yeah, Ken reminded me on signs. Quite a while ago, we talked about getting some signs for not dumping and leaving debris and so forth on conservation property, and all has come, and certainly in the Robb's Hill Conservation Land, and I suspect others, that practice is continuing, and I'm wondering when we can get some signs to post in appropriate places.
Now, as far as I recall, I did have some signs for the no dumping made, and I also had signs for entrances to guide hunters away from going into the areas on Robb's Hills that you guys actually had authorized me to do, and I've been working with Dr. Mann on that. I've just been giving our new DPW super a couple of weeks now that he started the job, to break in and get used to what's going on around here, and he's actually agreed to talk to me about placing the signs out.
So when would they be available? This is over a year now.
Well, they're available now.
Oh, they're available now?
Yeah.
So
Okay,
Carl, are you volunteering to go out and put them up?
I can certainly put them up where I've seen it. I can look around a little closer, but I can put them up in a few places that we've seen them. But if I can get access to them, Matt.
All right. Is there any other comment or from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, we heard Jay sitting here for quite a while.
I'm going to get them in a second.
Okay, bless your heart. Thank you.
Oh, Carl, thank you for pointing out the tree thing. I'm doing 10 things at once here, and I just read my notes really quick. So, you know, it just, you know.
Yeah, it's okay. I just wanted, because I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what we were voting on. That's all.
Jay, do you have any comment from the public?
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you.
You got you, Jay.
Well, we could hear you.
No, I was just attending the meeting to listen.
All right. Well,
Following along.
Well, you're the only member of the public left. That's why I asked. So,
Well,
all right. Hearing no further comment, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move.
Second.
Second.
All right. Ken Jones.
Aye.
Rich Birch.
Aye.
Katie Childs.
Aye.
Carl Luck.
Aye.
Jack Rabbit.
Aye.
Jeff Viviano.
Aye.
And an aye for myself.
Good job, Mr. Chairman. You navigated another tough night.
Oh, it wasn't that tough. And we're done at 10:03.
Woohoo.
Early night.
Excellent. Nice
All right.
job.
Good night, guys.
Night, everybody.
Everybody.
Night, guys.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Nice job, Bob.
Yep. Okay, how do I turn this off? Leave.
You hit the red button that says leave.
Leave me.